Video game studios rise and fall. However, that also means that we have to say goodbye to a few studios that made our most beloved games. And with their disappearance, often hope for a new game in the series fades away. In this video, we find out which games are responsible for the demise of our favorite studios. Here are 10 games that shut down their studios. The Suffering Ties That Bind was a great first-person horror game and follow-up to the brilliant 2004 game, The Suffering. The first game in the series sold well enough to justify a sequel, but despite its quality, the second one bombed. It was the last game made by Surreal Software, a studio that was heavily working with Midway at the time. Upon closure, Surreal was working on the ambitious title This Is Vegas, and we all know why we never got to see this free-roaming action game in Vegas. Midway's financial troubles took down Surreal Software in the process. A shame, because we would have loved a third game in the Suffering series.
Still with me, Torque? My man, we in this together, baby. To the end, for always and forever.
Yeah! Things are about to get awesome! High five! Or, not.
Known as Irrational Games Australia, 2K Australia assisted on a few of 2K's titles from the BioShock franchise and the Bureau, XCOM Declassified. However, Borderlands the pre-sequel was 2K Australia's own project and they certainly delivered. It wasn't a memorable game, but fans of the franchise liked this enjoyable prequel. The game also sold pretty alright, but despite all this, the studio closed down. Apparently, it was too expensive to operate a studio this size in Australia.
I will do my best to not fall to my death.
The financial crisis hit the Australian video game business pretty hard, because Pandemic Studios, Visceral Studios, and Team Bondi also had to shut their doors around the same time. Let's hope Down Under will get on top again. GlyphX Incorporated was a graphical design studio that mainly built art, promotional videos, and graphics for all sorts of media projects. However, with Advent Rising, they wanted to make their own game. Advent Rising came out for PC and Xbox and was a pretty decent action-adventure game that unfortunately wasn't a huge commercial success. So the planned trilogy was thrown overboard quickly, and GlyphX Inc. got bought by Sandman Studios. This company also makes all sorts of visual art for different media projects. GlyphX's venture in video game development was short but interesting. It's a pity that the rest of the Advent Rising trilogy will forever be locked away in the minds of its creators though.
What the?
The Maxis brand is still alive and kicking, but its main studio, Maxis Emeryville, is long gone. EA decided to close the studio after the problems it had with the online reboot of SimCity released in 2013. The game was plagued with all sorts of problems like server issues, tons of bugs, and a disastrous launch in general. This is not what we were used to from the studio led by innovative game designer Will Wright, who brought us some of the best and brightest creations, like the original SimCity and The Sims. Nowadays, Maxis still exists as a name, but the real studio that wrote video game history is no more. Smart Bomb was the last game released by Core Design, and to be fair, it wasn't a very good game. This puzzle game was a post-launch title for Sony's PlayStation Portable, but was boring in every possible way. Though Core Design's demise becomes more clear if you realize that their penultimate game was Tomb Raider: Angel of Darkness. We all know that this game was almost the downfall of Lara Croft. It should have made the franchise the next big thing again, but it failed and it took a while before Ms. Croft returned. We never heard of Core Design again, and the studio closed in 2005. It looks like Smart Bomb bombed. See what we did there?
door. Voodoo, cover the door.
In an effort to gain market share in the FPS market, EA put their eggs in multiple baskets. One of those baskets was a reboot of Medal of Honor made by Danger Close. The studio formerly known as DreamWorks Interactive made the very successful first Medal of Honor 10 years earlier. The first reboot game wasn't that bad and was a commercial success, but its follow-up Warfighter wasn't. Warfighter was both a critical and commercial failure.
Us. Move!
Danger Close Games wasn't closed, however, but it became a division of DICE called DICE Los Angeles. The studio no longer works on their own games anymore, but helps out DICE in creating content for the Battlefield franchise. However, it's still a shame that this meant the end for the beloved Medal of Honor series. The Hungarian Black Hole Entertainment did a fantastic job on their debut game Armies of Exego. The studio developed a few Warhammer games before it began developing its last game, Might and Magic Hero 6 for Ubisoft. The game received a lot of positive scores, but as we've seen a couple of times before, the studio got in financial trouble. Black Hole Entertainment had to close its doors in 2012, a few months after releasing their last game. A Might and Magic game leading to the studio being axed. Where do we hear this before?
.3DO.
Now we know! New World Computing also bit the bullet when it released Heroes of Might and Magic 4 Winds of War in 2003. Back in those days, 3DO still owned the rights to the Heroes of Might and Magic series. But Winds of War was the game that ended their involvement with their own series. Kinda harsh, because the fans loved the games and critics liked it as well. However, 3DO collapsed due to the financial struggles it had for years, and the franchise was sold to Ubisoft. During the years that followed, several game studios worked on video games in the Heroes of Might and Magic franchise, including Black Hole Entertainment we just mentioned.
More overtime.
Terminal Reality knew some highs and lows in its existence. For almost 20 years, the studio entertained us with games like a proper Ghostbusters video game, 4x4 Evolution, and the Blood Rain series. Though these games might not have been of stellar quality, they did manage to find a crowd and entertain them. Terminal Reality also made a lot of games that were pretty crappy, like The Walking Dead Survival Instinct. The game focuses on Daryl Dixon and lets you shoot loads of zombies. However, gameplay was boring, graphics and atmosphere pretty bland, and the story just wasn't that good. And that's how The Walking Dead Survival Instinct actually led to the demise of Terminal Reality. We guess they lacked survival instinct. During the short but impressive glory days of Sega's Dreamcast, No Cliché impressed us quite a bit. Sega bought this promising French studio, and their first game, Toy Commander, was truly something special. No Cliché also worked on the Dreamcast port of Quake 3, and their final project was the fun but flawed Toy Racer. The game was pretty entertaining, but in the meantime, Sega wasn't doing so well. This resulted in the closure of No Cliché and the cancellation of the survival horror game Agartha. No Cliché lived a short but entertaining life, and we're pretty sad that their toy universe we loved never got a third installment. Do you remember any of the games mentioned in this list? And do you share our feelings about them? Or do you maybe have some games to add to this list? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button as a way to share some positivity after all this negative talk about these shut down game studios.